End your week with us. We're talking about the international free agent early signing period. We're going to dive all the way into the X's and O's and the data points you have on these 16 and 17-year-olds that just signed. Does that sound good, Arm Layton, or what?
No, I'm good. No, so I'm glad you led me right into that. I've been getting a lot of questions like, "Hey, Arm, what are your thoughts on this guy? What are your thoughts on that guy?" I don't know because that video that you tagged me in is exactly the amount that I've seen of him, just like you. So, the one thing that I'll never do is I would say pretend that I saw something that I didn't or give you some half-baked scouting report. And like yes, I could go do top 10 international free agents and I will be just basing it off of 3 swings on each guy. Maybe some look better than the others and yeah, I could put a little bit into it, but it would be half-baked. So thank you for teeing me up on that. I am not going to rank these guys until they've played a professional game. I have video and access and data and more perspectives and hopefully even seen some of them. But yeah, I will share my thoughts once I get to see them. I will be on the backfields a lot this year. Hopefully I will, but I can't say, oh, he's this or that. And I think anyone
No.
that does do that, that isn't Ben Badler, who's,
Right.
Baseball America, who's on the beat, or some pipeline folks who are on the beat, anyone out there that's ranking these guys or talking about these guys, like you ask yourself, where are they getting that information from? And how do they get to that hypothesis? Like I can't do that.
So I think you're missing a pristine opportunity to just reply to every tweet when somebody asks you about a 16-year-old who you have zero data points on by just saying, yeah, looks super projectable, probably more room to fill out too. Just
Yeah.
copy and paste every time. Like, definitely looks like there's some room to fill out, but super
Yeah.
projectable.
Raw and projectable, impressive bat speed. If he can improve the approach a little bit, how would you know? I've never seen
Right.
him taking at bat.
Because he's 16.
I've only seen the open side soft toss footage. And you can see some swings and you're like, ooh, that's nice.
That's
But at the
cool.
same
Yeah.
time, like that doesn't always translate, right? Like
Right.
there's things that like it'll break down in games mechanically. So, I need at least, I always say I need at least 100 at bats, not from a data perspective, from watching, like not even in person, video, like just watching 100 at bats. I pretty much won't rank a prospect without at least 100 at bats that I'm able to watch. So, I'm excited to learn more about these guys, but you did the research that really matters.
I did the hard hitting journalism. I power ranked my favorite names in the early international free agent signing period. So it has nothing to do with their baseball abilities. We're going to get to those rankings. Very fun ones, including the viral sensation Iverson Allen. You will be shocked where he is on the rankings. We're also going to talk about Yariel Rodriguez signing with the Toronto Blue Jays, 4 years, $32 million. The Astros are in on a certain big ticket free agent, and we're going to do the final 3 GM episodes. It's going to be White Sox, Cubs, and the Atlanta Braves. Spoiler alert, the Braves might not have anything to do, but we'll see if we can make them a little bit better. As always, show is brought to you by the King of Sportsbooks, BetMGM. You guys are heading down to Vegas for the big game. You're not allowed to say the actual name of the big game, huh? I saw Vince Vaughn and Tom Brady not saying the actual name.
Oh, can you not? Is that a thing?
I think they have a copyright on S asterisk asterisk ER Bowl.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No, I'm excited to get. I didn't know that. I'm excited to get out there. I've never been to Vegas before, so very appreciative of BetMGM for setting us up out there. Peter will be crushing it from a football perspective, giving you all the bets,
Yeah.
all the props. I will blindly tail and get my first taste of Las Vegas. I always said I was going to go with my dad. That was always our plan when for my 21st birthday. So after he passed when I was 19, I just couldn't get myself to go there. So
Yeah.
it feels right to be able to do it on a cool opportunity off of something that a connection that we've built from the company and something that we wouldn't be doing if it weren't for my dad anyway. So I'm excited to get out there and I think it's gonna be pretty fun. Hopefully I just picked the right side.
Yeah, I have been once. I was not of age to gamble. You also know I am an incredibly low risk human being, so I am averse to sitting down at the tables anyways. I love my little quarter slots. Those are hilarious. Having said that, I loved Vegas because the food scene is amazing. The entertainment scene is amazing. If you see like an EDM artist that you like, or even just like another genre of musical artist that you like,
Wu-Tang
chances
Clan's
are
gonna
they're
have a
going.
residency there.
There you go.
Wu-Tang
All
Clan
right.
will have a residency there. I'm gonna be pumped for that.
Perfect. So go do that. I went to the NBA Summer League, which was just awesome. Like, obviously, you're not there for the Summer League, but uh, go check out the lobby of the Bellagio. They've got Dale Chihuly stained glass that's just beautiful. So go take a
Yeah.
photo, send it to your girlfriend, and get on your merry
I'm
way.
I'm always looking for stained glass. That's what I travel for.
Me
Also, gonna be able to see
too.
where the A's are gonna play. We get to see the future home of the A's potentially. I don't know where they're gonna stick that stadium yet, but I'm interested to look into that too.
The plot of land. Let's start with the rumor, and it has been properly sourced by the duo of Ken Rosenthal and Chandler Rome at The Athletic. The Astros are making a push for Josh Hader, which you called earlier this offseason. You said that the Astros were your predicted landing spot for Hader. He has never not been an all-star, Josh Hader.
Yeah.
And he enters the market looking for a deal that is either equal to or larger than Edwin Diaz's deal, which means he's looking to sign a 9-figure deal. The Astros are pushing really close to the competitive balance tax. This would get them really, really close, maybe even over. I ask you, like, hey, how's the fit for Josh Hader on one of the best teams in baseball? It's obviously really good. But I ask you, what's the ripple effect for a Ryan Presley or Brian Abreu? Does one of those guys in turn become somewhat available if they sign Hader?
Yeah, I wonder because honestly, and Blind Squirrel finds a nut eventually, right? Like
Right.
that's when it came to the free agent predictions. But the reason why I mocked Tater there was because I didn't think it really made sense for them to go get a starter because yeah, who are you going to go out there and get that's going to be much better than what you probably already have? I think Urquidy's a fine five, and you're going to spend a lot of money for somebody that's slightly better. I'd
Well,
rather
and
go,
yeah, and Luis
and they're
Garcia is
going to get
back by
Luis
the All-Star
Garcia
break.
back.
Right.
Exactly, exactly. And you know what I think also is contributing to this? Kendall Graveman goes down, right? And,
Yeah.
and that's the unfortunate thing. Had shoulder surgery, so with Graveman going down, that was a guy that they went out and acquired. I don't know if they had insurance or anything on the contract, if they get some money back or how that works. But I think that part maybe made them a little bit more eager to go spend. My thing is he just seems like a perfect fit, right? If the rotation, you're gonna have to just count on those guys naturally getting better in terms of Framber bouncing back, even though he still had a 3.45, and more specifically Christian Javier and Hunter Brown, who combined for almost a 5 ERA last year. Naturally, those guys should be better. Again, Urquidy, if he's high fours, that's great.
Yep.
Build a super pen, and if you have Presley, Abreu, and Hader, and then you have hopefully Montero bouncing back, like that is disgusting. Now you're shortening starts, so you don't need 6 and 7 every single time from Framber. Javier's better at 5 and dive, and so being able to be that 5 and dive guy would be great. Urquidy is better in a different way as a 5 and dive guy. Monetarily is the question, right? Because the reason why we didn't mock this, Jack, was when we did the playing GM for the Astros was we didn't imagine that they would go this high
No.
financially because they're already pretty much at the highest that they've been for any years really payroll.
And they're going to
But
need to start paying guys too. They're going to need to pay Kyle Tucker. If they choose to pay Framber Valdez, they're going to need to do that. They'll extend Jose Altuve. They got to make a big decision on Bregman. There are so many layers to this.
so I think that it's kind of telling on what the decision with Bregman's going to be.
Yep.
And I think the reason why he's been floated in trade talks isn't because the Astros want to trade him. I think it's because everybody knows that the Astros aren't keeping him. So then you just kind of put two and two together. I just think they're going to ride it out, like we talked about in the GM episode, and try to win a World Series this year. But you have Bregman coming off the book, so that's what, 30 million.
Yep.
And then you have one more year of Abreu after this one. So you assume he can come off the books in the next 2 years.
Jose
Yes,
Abreu, not Brian. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Jose Abreu. I should have clarified that. Thank you. And
Yeah.
then I don't know what Altuve's contract situation is in terms of how if it goes up or down, but that alone is a lot of money cleared up. If you backload it, you're focused on really just retaining Kyle Tucker. I think you can make that work. They're also going to clear money with Verlander after this year. So I think there's a lot of ways where they're going to clear a lot of money, and ultimately they could probably backload this deal and not feel it much, and maybe give even some extra years to Hader.
I agree. Altuve, I'm really curious how he does this because he does feel like the kind of guy that would just sign to make sure that he's paid through retirement, and lighten up the AAV load on the Astros. Like he'll be entering his age 35 season in 2025. This is his last year of control. It's at $26 million. He's made 26 mil for the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So entering his age 35 season where he's on the open market, is that guy going to seek the 3-year $75 million deal where he's making 25 per, or is he going to seek the 6-year $100 million deal where he's cutting them a little bit of a break and he's making 19 a year? I think he does that for the organization that has given him everything in his career.
Yeah, I'm with you. And if he does that, then they're in business, because now I have it in front of me. Verlander, I know they have money kicked in, but I don't know what the exact total is. He's owed 43 million. However much that the Astros are paying that, whatever, they're paying a lot. 30 million for Bregman. You can just, for round numbers, call that 50. Again, I don't have the exact number in front of me. So if you're able to pull up, how much the Mets are paying for this year, that would be interesting. There is a 2025 vesting option, so it depends on some things here. But you wonder if Verlander is going to come back. You only owe Jordan 15 in 2025. You still have those other guys that you want to extend in arbitration, and Kyle Tucker. So you could just wait it out through arbitration, or you could leverage that and go long-term lower AAV too. So I feel like they see a situation here where Altuve is the only guy that they're probably hell-bent on bringing back. I'd imagine that guy can't play anywhere else. I think it would be crazy. But you clear up the 30 with Bregman, however much of Verlander's contract, assuming that the option doesn't vest. If it does, then, that's a little bit of a different situation. And then, after 2025, you got 11.5 million from Rafael Montero coming off the books. You have 19.5 from Jose Abreu coming off the books. After this year, you have 14 million from Ryan Presley coming off the books. So I think they can justify it if they structure it uniquely. And I assume that's probably what they're going to do. Because in Hader's case, I think he just wants this probably could be his last contract, right? Like, I think he probably is fine with it, a long-term deal, and, a little bit lower AAV, backload it. And that helps the Astros now.
So Verlander, I don't think the Astros are going to lose sleep on Verlander, even if it does vest. The Mets are covering 35 of the $86 million. Ooh. So it's 2 years, 51. They're pretty much going to owe him, effectively, for the Astros, it's 2 years, 51 million. So they're pretty much going to owe him $25.5 million this year. If it vests, it turns into a $35 million option. And the Mets are going to cover 17.5 of that. So it would be a $17.5 million vesting option. You're not losing a wink of sleep over that. So the Astros, it seems like they are in a better spot than many want to give them credit for. And these decisions, while it's going to hurt to lose Bregman, I don't think they're going to hurt that bad. And unfortunately, second half of last year, it made it seem more and more like they may just let Fromber expire and test the open market and probably seek greener pastures. But they may like what they have coming down the pipe, and they may like the young talent that they have for more control. They extended Javier. Brown's got 5 more years of control. They can always go out and sign a.
They don't have to pay for a catcher. Yainer Diaz is under control for a long
6 years.
Time.
Yep.
Yeah. So, that's going to be cheap for them. McCormick is just entering ARB1. They have a lot of guys that I think will be, relatively cheap because of the injuries and stuff. Even a Luis Garcia, but based on service time, it's ARB1 this year as well. Like they definitely are in a spot where it's going to be cheap for a while for some of their key players, and I think that's really important for them.
You floated the idea of super pen with Hader getting the 9th, working backwards, Presley getting the 8th, Abreu getting the 7th, or Presley getting the 7th, Abreu getting the 8th. I'm going to try and break that up a little bit later on in the episode, so stay tuned. Before we get to the IFA name rankings, Toronto and Yariel Rodriguez, 4 years, $32 million. Go read Arm's write-up on that. It is linked in the episode description. Here is the 411 on Yariel Rodriguez. 26-year-old from Cuba, defected, made his way to Japan in 2020, played 3 years with the Chunichi Dragons, 2020, 21, 22. Ahead of the 2023 season, he started for Cuba and was really solid, 7-30, punched out 10. He was a long man in Japan in 2021, had an ERA under 3. In 22, he was a reliever in NPB, and he was disgusting. A 1.15 ERA in 54 2/3 innings, a whip under 1. Opponents hit a $163 against him. After he threw for Cuba, they get bounced in the semifinals against the U.S. in Miami. He does not go back to Japan, even though he was under contract. He stayed in the United States. He was like, I'm just going to sign with a Major League Baseball team. And Chunichi, understandably so, said, hell no, you aren't. you're our player. You're under contract. He stayed in the U.S. He trained. They granted his release after the season. They said he was still a Chunichi player, so he could not sign anywhere until the NPB season ended. Once it ended, he was eligible to be signed by a Major League Baseball team. He was training in the DR. Here you go. You got Toronto paying for him. And now he's got to go from Cuba to Japan to Miami to the Dominican Republic where he was traded or where he was training, and then up to Canada. So this guy is getting a bunch of stamps on the passport, which is unique.
And that was part of the, the passport or whatever there was some sort of challenge with, I think being able to get to Toronto and, I guess just with all the different places he's been, they had to iron that out. They were able to. What's interesting is Chunichi doesn't get any kickbacks here. They don't get any,
because they released him. They didn't post him. Yep.
So he won that standoff.
Yeah.
I mean, and they got to be pissed seeing how much he signed for. What was it? 3 years, 42?
4 for 32.
Oh, 4 for 32. Sorry. 4 for 32. Like, they would have got a nice little chunk of change there. That would have helped them get a really good player. So, that part of it's interesting, but I love the get for the Blue Jays because they are in a weird spot with their pitching staff where, I think you kind of need this hybrid guy that can fill several different needs depending on how your staff is looking. Is Alek Manoah going to get an opportunity? Maybe, maybe not. How's the rest of that rotation going to look? I think you could easily say that they may need a guy in there at some point. Given that Jordan Hicks is getting a look as a starter, I'd imagine it wouldn't be crazy if Yariel Rodriguez gets a look as a starter. I personally think he's set up best as a high leverage relief arm, which if you look at the bullpen, they also need because, outside of really 2 arms in the back end, I don't really trust anybody else. So I think it could be this Swiss Army knife for them. And I talked about it. Like, it's a very unique fastball. I had a back and forth with Eno Saris on X. Yeah. He talked about how the Stuff Plus graded out as like a 75 in the World Baseball Classic. And I asked him, doesn't Stuff Plus generally dock pitchers with the cut ride? And cut ride is like what it sounds like. It's a little bit of cut and a little bit of carry, but sometimes because of the pitch characteristics, it'll get knocked down in the eyes of Stuff Plus. And he said yes, but because I used Justin Steele as an example. He's another cut ride fastball guy that grades out as a 90 Stuff Plus, but he was extremely effective with the fastball at a lower velocity. He said yes and no, but then ultimately he also said, well, I guess we'll just have to see. Maybe it's different enough. Eno is one of the most brilliant baseball minds out there. And he's kind of in the boat of let's wait and see.
Yeah.
My best guess is that fastball is weird enough to work. And I think weird in the lens of he legitimately, it's almost a cutter most of the time. So, a 4-seam fastball is naturally going to have around 7 inches from a righty, 7 inches of horizontal run. And that's just because it's almost physically impossible to throw a fastball that doesn't, run at all horizontally. That's why it's important to get 20 inches of induced vertical break. So if you're 20 inches of induced vertical break and 7 inches of horizontal, it's going to look like it's carrying more than running horizontally. If you're 18 inches of vertical break and only 4 inches of horizontal, it's going to look like that even more because, again, you don't have any of that arm side run. We're looking at a guy here that's like 13 inches of vertical break, induced vertical break, and like 0 of horizontal. So it does play up, and then sometimes it's like negative in terms of the horizontal, meaning it's cutting to his glove side. So I think the variance and the unique aspect of his fastball at 95, 96 is going to make for some uncomfortable at bats for hitters. It is really, you should just look at it as almost like a cutter, and it's going to result in ground balls. So some of them play well at the top of the zone. A lot of them result in ground balls. And then his slider is just disgusting. And that slider alone is enough to make him a high leverage relief piece. What's interesting is he started throwing a splitter, understandably, like all the guys around him in Japan are probably throwing splitters. Yeah. It looked pretty good. I saw some good ones in the WBC. If that pitch comes along, then I could see the idea of trying to use him as a starter. But I love him as a high leverage Swiss Army knife type of guy that, in an emergency, he could open for you and go 2 innings, 3 innings. But I like him more in the high leverage role, especially starting out. Because as you mentioned, he didn't throw in 2023. So you're going to build him back up to something that he hasn't done in 6-7 years. He was really starting for the most part in Cuba. Mm-hmm. And I think this year should be a good time to just get his feet wet in the big leagues, build a workload back up, and work as a reliever.
Yeah, so he wanted the opportunity to start games. wanting the opportunity to start games across a 4-year deal does not mean he needs to start the 5th game of the season for the Toronto Blue Jays. He wants the opportunity to earn the opportunity to start games for Toronto. And I think that was a large part of the sales pitch that Ross Atkins made to him in his camp. So that doesn't mean that he's like forcing Alek Manoah out of the rotation. He can be a high leverage reliever this year, but when Bassett comes off the books, or, if Manoah ends up like flopping again, Rodriguez can jump into that versus Hicks, where I think Jordan Hicks is just a starter from the jump. And the only way he gets out of that is if he fails as a starting pitcher.
Exactly.
Gausman, Barrios, Bassett, Kikuchi, Manoah. Romano is the closer. Yariel Rodriguez is a setup guy with Swanson. That sounds really good.
Huge help for the staff.
Huge help.
It's just one of those where it's just, again, I don't know what his role is going to be in the short term, but it doesn't really matter. It just was, they needed a guy that could contribute in a few different ways. And I think he could check a lot of different boxes for them based on what they need, which is just having an alternate like that could plug in. Cause I do have some concerns, both in the rotation and in high leverage. And now he might be able to plug a leak in either if there is one.
All right. I did the international free agent digging, so you did not have to. None of this is baseball related. It is strictly these young men's first and last name. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 honorable mentions. I've got 2 niche awards, and then I've got my top 5 names of the IFA period. So I'm going to give you the name, and this is almost like you're sitting on the couch in therapy. You tell me the first thing that comes to your mind when I say this name. Okay. No. First, let's start with the Spider-Man meme award. The Pirates signed a guy named Jesus Lizardo. Lizardo. Jesus Lizardo, not Luzardo.
Oh gosh, that's great. I would say he's off to a great start.
Right. I don't think he's a pitcher though. I think he is a hitter. But Jesus Lizardo. Smallest field. I like this one. I don't know if it's a nickname or not, but Houston signed a guy named Eduardito Lopez, which is pretty much Eduardo Lopez.
Has to be a nickname.
Just smaller.
My Latin side of the family would always just add Ito to everything when they call it, referring to me. No, but maybe they wanted to name him that. That's awesome.
Little Eduardo.
I think fun. Fun is the first word that comes to me.
Okay. Eduardito Lopez signed with the Houston Astros. Now we get to the honorable mentions. I've got 5 of them before the top 5. The San Diego Padres signed a shortstop named Kevin Tamburini. Thoughts?
That's just an awesome name.
It's a great name.
And also, where's he from?
Tamburini, Venezuela.
Does not sound like a Latin name, right?
No, at all.
Not at all. Not at all.
At all. I've got another one that does not sound Latin at all, but they made the top 5. Mailerson Casanova signed with the Philadelphia Phillies. Mailerson, like mail, I send you a letter in the mail, Erson Casanova, signed with the Philadelphia Phillies. Ridiculous.
That's just awesome.
How about Matt Harvey's cousin, Max Gregory Harvey, signed with the New York Mets? MaxGregori. Max Gregory Harvey.
Not actually his cousin.
No, not his cousin.
Okay. He signed with the Mets. That's pretty crazy.
That is kind of crazy.
The Milwaukee rises.
Exactly. This one got a lot of love on social media. Jesus Mate signed with the Milwaukee Brewers. And if you're not getting it, write it down. Jesus Mate.
Jesus made.
Jesus made. People love it. Last honorable mention, signed with the LA Dodgers. Yo Jackson Laya. Y.O. Jackson Laya.
That's awesome.
Yes.
It's honestly like, I love how fun some of the names can be across like different cultures, because then it's also one of those things where you got to hear the broadcasters say it, and I just get so excited about that. As someone like, my name's pretty normal, like short and like easy, but like not easy at all in terms of Aram. And I was just talking about this on the call up, like it's always so fun to just hear how people try to butcher it or how they're going to get it. But that is a good one.
Yeah. Well, this is also like, this is kind of where I cook. I love figuring out the tough names. Like when DJ Uiagalelei. Oh my God, I screwed it up on the putt.
Screwed it up.
When DJ Uiagalelei got his first start at Clemson, I was like, I'm going to be all over that. I'm never going to get it wrong ever. And look at me, I just got it wrong. All right, top five. Number five, Manny Ramirez signed with the Texas Rangers. Manni Ramirez.
Another guy off to a great start.
Great start. The bloodline's excellent.
Just lay off the juice, and you're off to a great start.
You're good. Latin guy signed with the Tampa Bay Rays. Number four is Frank Chessman with the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah. It's funny. Every once in a while, you get a name mixed in there that it feels like he's from like Kansas.
Right.
Or like, and it's always great.
So I have to Google Frank Chessman baseball because Frank Chessman, if you Google it, is the director of national sales at Alkaline 88. So Alkaline 88, the water company. Let's see. I'm going to open up LinkedIn as the app pulls up. He lives in Corona, California. Frank Chessman.
Away if he was from Kansas, but
so good. All right, number three. The Cincinnati Reds signed someone named Diorland Zambrano. Dior, like Christian Dior, Diorland Zambrano. Diorland Zambrano. You are the newest Cincinnati Red.
This is like the college sports like best names as well that we'll
Yeah.
see. Like this is an underrated angle.
Auburn had a safety named Smoke Monday the last couple of years, and I thought that was so funny.
That is good.
Obsessed. Number two, the newest San Francisco Giant is Juan Colorado.
Yeah, that's my favorite one by far.
I've never been more sure that is an adult film name.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I'm like, if someone introduced themselves to me as Juan Colorado, I'm assuming that they're a celebrity movie star or an adult film name.
Adult film
That said, I feel like with that name, you're destined for greatness. You can't be like basic name and then state like that. Like Joe Montana.
Right.
Like, he's basically the Latin Joe Montana. That's
pretty much Juan Colorado, Joe Montana.
Colorado.
I will say Bill Schmidt had an excellent opportunity and he dropped the ball on signing Juan Colorado. But that trade in 2 years is going to be awesome to see Juan Colorado.
He didn't throw low enough from the left side. That's
right.
all they want.
That's his problem. And number one is the viral one. Iverson Allen signed with the Pittsburgh Pirates. A little bit of backstory. Allen's dad played on the Panamanian national basketball team. So clearly a basketball fan, probably went for Iverson Allen. There was a guard at Mississippi State on the basketball team named Iverson Molinar, whose dad was also from Panama and played basketball. So it might just be a thing. But Iverson Allen is now a Pittsburgh Pirate. And I hope there's not a Lou Tyron in next year's IFA class.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Getting right to practice.
That's what we got.